Hi everyone, welcome. Thanks for joining me today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Naomi. I'm a physiotherapist and the founder of NeuroFit BC. We are here today to talk about a very important topic when it comes to Parkinson's, and that is posture. So today I'm going to give you 5 tips for better posture with PD. So let's just talk briefly about a few things that posture can help with, or having good posture can help with. So good posture can help with falls, it can help with freezing, it can help improve your functional capacity, it can help reduce pain, and it can help improve your gait. So those are really important key things for people with Parkinson's. Let's just talk about them very briefly. So falls, we know, are a big issue. Having better posture and making sure that you're stacked over top of your feet can help to reduce your risk of falling. It is also going to make it more effective when you're doing your balance exercises at home. So the next one is gait. We know that most people with Parkinson's have some abnormalities or difficulty in their gait. So having better posture can improve a few things with your walking. It can help reduce things like shuffling. It can help improve your step length, help you walk a little bit faster, and also improve how your muscles are working when you walk. The next thing that's important about posture is it can help reduce pain. So very commonly I hear complaints of back pain or shoulder pain or neck pain. Those are very important areas that can be improved by improving your posture. The next one I mentioned is functional capacity. So functional capacity is things like being able to get your jacket on and off, being able to reach up to the cupboard to get something. Those are issues that people with Parkinson's very often have problems with, in part because of poor posture. So if I'm trying to lift my hand above my head and I'm rounded through my spine, it's going to limit my range of motion. It's going to reduce my capacity to do those things. So having better posture can improve your capacity for a daily functional task. And then there's freezing. So freezing is something that posture can definitely have an effect on, both when you get into a freezing episode and also before. So having better posture and alignment when you're walking can help to reduce the chance of freezing, and also learning to get into a better posture when you are frozen can help you get out of that state. We'll talk about that more in our freezing video coming up soon. All right, so those are a few reasons why posture is really important. Now let's get to the 5 steps to improving it. Here we go. All right, so just before we get started, we're going to talk about a very important line that is going to help you understand where your optimal posture should be. So you'll see a picture up right beside me here of a line drawn through the side of my body, and you can see that it goes through the center of my ear, through my shoulder, through my hip, just in front of my knee, and just in front of my ankle. So keep that line in mind. We're going to use it as we go through those 5 steps to better posture. So step number 1, we are going to start at your feet. Your feet are an extremely important component of your posture. That's what's interacting with the ground, and knowing where our feet are and making sure that we're centered over our feet can really impact how the rest of our body responds. So you'll see the picture up beside me here of those 2 feet and a little triangle. So what I want you to do is stand in bare feet. You're going to get your feet hip width apart, and we're going to try and make sure that we have equal weight through each of the dots in that triangle. So very often people are either standing way back on their heels and feel like they're going to tip backwards, or they're standing forward and crunching their toes into the ground. So what we want to do is imagine that you have those little triangles on the bottom of your feet, and we're just going to shift our weight forward a little bit and back a little bit until we feel like we have equal weight on each of those 3 points in the triangle. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing side to side. So we're going to try and make sure that we have equal weight side to side between those feet. So again, feet are hip width apart. I want you to shift your weight side to side and come back to center until you can really feel that you have equal weight on both those feet. Now, there's an exercise you can do to work on this. What we're going to do is work on something called ankle strategy. So I'm going to turn sideways for you so that you can see this best. And what I'm going to do is find the equal center point where my weight is between those 3 points in the triangle. And then I'm going to keep my body like a board, and I'm going to start to lean forward. Now I'm not bending at the hips and I'm not bending at the knees. I'm only bending at the ankles. So I'm going to pull my belly button in to engage my core, and I'm going to bend just at the ankles. It's a small movement. I'm going to tip forward and then back, and then forward and then back. So it's a very small movement. You can do it in front of a wall if you need to make sure you're safe, or with a wall behind you if you tend to fall backwards. So that small movement will start to teach your ankles that they can control where your weight is over your feet without having to bend your hips and your knees. And it will also help allow you to get the feeling of having a little bit more weight in the toes, a little bit more weight in the heels, so you can come back to center where you have equal weight. So there it is, step number 1, your feet. Having your feet in good contact with the ground is a very, very important component to posture. Step number 2, we're gonna talk about your hips and your knees. So very often what I see in my clients is that they have bent hips. So they have flexion at their hips. So their knees are a little bent and their hips are a little bent, and they tend to be rounded through their spine. Now, whether you're back on your heels or forward on your toes, you can still have those flexed hips, and that's something that we really, really, really want to train out of. So what we want to think about doing is getting those hips forward and stacking my hips over top of my heels. So again, I'm going to stand sideways for you. So if I'm rounded back here, my hips are flexed, or if I'm sitting forward here, my hips are still flexed. Either way, we're gonna tuck our bum under, push our hips forward, and try and see if I can stack my hips over top of my heels. So we'll go back to that line that we talked about, and you want your hips stacked right over top of your heels, okay? So there's a few different exercises. Well, there's a whole bunch of different exercises you can do to work on that. We're gonna talk about one in step 5. But things like glute bridges or the sideways pendulums that we did in one of my workout videos, those are good ones. There's lots and lots of focus on strengthening those hip extensors in the workout videos that I've done. So go take a peek, follow those videos, and that will give you some great ideas for strengthening the hips so that you can get them forward over the heels. So forward flexion of the hips is one thing that we see a lot when we're talking about the pelvic and hip area. The other thing that tends to happen is we get this jutting out of the hip on one side. So another thing that we're going to talk about is getting that hip into alignment and not letting it jut out and let our trunk go the opposite way. So you'll see in number 5, I'm going to give you an exercise to help get you out of that hip out posture and back into center line over both feet. So check out step number 5 for that one. For our knees, we want to think about having just a tiny bend in our knees, not locking them out and not having them bent too much. So again, very often people will sit with their knees bent, okay? I want you to push your heels into the ground. Think about driving through your heels to extend those knees nice and long and activate those muscles on the front of your thigh. The other way to think about that is by thinking about taking your kneecap and using your muscles to lift your kneecap up. So I'm driving my heels into the ground, I'm straightening my knees, and I'm using those muscles on the front of my thighs, thinking about pulling those kneecaps up and engaging those muscles to stand nice and tall. So step number 2, we're going to make sure your hips are forward and stacked over your heels, your bottom is tucked under, and that your knees are nice and straight with activation through the front of your legs. Step number 3, we are going to talk about our trunk and our arms now. So what we want to think about when it comes to our trunk is you want to imagine that somebody is taking a string from the very top of your head and pulling that string up, lifting you tall to the sky. So what that does, if you're rounded back here, is it should pull you up over top of your hips, and if you're forward in front of you, thinking about lifting that string from the top of your head should pull you back over your hips. The other way to think about it is if I touch my rib cage, I want my rib cage to be stacked over top of my hips. So if I'm forward here, I want my rib cage back over my hips, and if I'm sitting way back here, I want to bring my rib cage forward. One of the best ways to know is to look in a mirror, because you may not always be able to feel exactly where your body is in space. So that's our trunk. We want to make sure that our ribs are over top of our hips, and we're going to make sure that we are tall, like we're being pulled up by a string from the very top of our head. The next piece we're going to talk about is where our arms go. So very often arms are rotated in this way. What that does is it pulls your chest down and pushes you into that rounded posture. It also doesn't allow your shoulder blades to get back onto your back and get into a proper extended alignment. So what we want to do is we want to turn those thumbs out. We're going to open up the chest, and you're going to think about lifting your breastbone or your sternum up to the sky. We're going to pull our shoulder blades back onto our spine, and we're going to aim them to the opposite back pocket. So if I turn around, you can imagine an X on my back where I'm pulling my shoulder blades down and back to the opposite back pocket. Now, there's one very good exercise you can do to work on this. What you're going to do is you're going to start with your palms up like you're holding a tray, and you're going to open those palms out to the side, lifting the chest as you do that. You're then going to see if you can touch your thumbs to the back of your shoulders and lift your elbows up, keeping your elbows pushing back to the back of the room. Then you're going to come down, Bring your arms back into that tray position, and you're gonna repeat. So open those arms up, see if you can pull your elbows back, touch your thumbs to your shoulders, lift your elbows up, keeping them behind you, and back down. So that's a great way to work on aligning that trunk and getting those arms to help you in the process. Okay? So there you go. Step number 4, we're gonna make sure our trunk is stacked, we're nice and tall, our shoulders are open, and our shoulder blades are aiming down to our opposite back pockets. Step number 4, we're almost there. We're gonna talk about our head. So your head is a very, very important component to posture. Our heads are very heavy. So even if we're in a nice upright position with our trunk, if your head is poking forwards, it's gonna pull your whole body down into a bad posture. So again, I'm gonna stand sideways for this one. Very often what we see is people are here. So what we're gonna do for our head is we're gonna try and think about giving ourselves a double chin. So you're gonna pull that chin in, and you can see as I pull that chin in, automatically my body starts to pull into a better posture. So you're gonna tuck that chin, try and create as many double chins as you can here, okay, and lengthen the back of your neck. All right, so I'm not tucking my chin down to my chest like this. I'm pulling it back and in to get long through the back of my neck. All right, so that head posture is a very, very important key component to having proper alignment throughout your body. So an exercise you can do for that is you're gonna stand with your back against the wall. Now, if you have very head forward posture, you might need to put a towel behind you to contact the wall, okay? And what you're gonna do is you're gonna push your head back either into the wall or the towel, create a long back of your neck, create that double chin, and you're gonna hold for 1, 2, 3, and then you're gonna let yourself go back into what might be your head forward and a little bit rounded posture. Then you're gonna do it again. You're gonna pull that chin back, create a double chin, get long through the back of the neck, try and slide the back of your neck up the wall that would be behind you. Hold for 3, 2, 1, and repeat. Now, if you find that challenging, you can also do it lying down. So that's a great way to start this exercise if it's a little bit too challenging in standing. You do the exact same thing lying down. On your back, you're gonna tuck your chin, try and create a double chin, get long through the back of your neck, and now it will be the floor that you're in contact with. All right? So step number 4 is your head. Having your head stacked over top of your body and getting out of that head forward posture is your step 4 to having good posture. All right, so step number 5, we're gonna put these things into a little bit of functional practice. So we're gonna start with some basic weight shifting exercises that are gonna bring all these pieces together. So first and foremost, we're gonna go back to step 1. You're gonna get your feet grounded into the ground. You're gonna spread those toes, and you're gonna make sure you have equal weight between the front of your feet and the back. What we're gonna do now is lift into that tall posture from our chest, rotate our hands out, and we're gonna start weight shifting. Now, what we're gonna do is think about driving the heel of one leg into the ground as we shift and having an opposite reaction of our body coming tall. So it's like somebody is pushing half of you into the ground and pulling the other half up. So we're gonna come over onto that leg, we're gonna grow tall as we do that, and we're gonna shift so much so that even with a straight leg, I can start to lift this leg off the ground. I don't want you to bend your knee right now, I want you to keep it nice and straight, and what you should feel is that standing hip starts to work. So this seems very simple, but it's a very good postural exercise to start turning on those hip muscles that we talked about when we were talking about dropping that hip out to the side. So up tall, shifting over that leg, keeping everything nice and long and lifting that opposite foot without bending that knee, okay? Look in a mirror, make sure your hip isn't sticking out this way, but that driving of the heel into the ground should correct that. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get into a split stance posture. So 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. Now what we're gonna work on is bringing that into what we would use in a normal stepping pattern. So we're gonna shift our hips forward, you're gonna lift your body nice and tall, and I want you to think about leading this movement with your hips. So I'm not letting my body come forward first, I'm pushing my hips forward until I am completely stacked over that front leg. When I get there, my back heel should have lifted off the ground, and I should be really free to move that back leg however I want. So this is very similar to our side-to-side shift, but now we're going forward, stacking over that front leg and freeing that leg from the back. So I'll show you this sideways. I'm coming forward, I'm stacking over my front hip, I'm letting that back leg be free, okay? Again, from this angle, I'm coming forward with my hips first, I'm driving down through that heel, and I am stacking over my front leg. Okay, again, these may seem small, but they're very, very good exercises to start building in that better posture. So from there, what you can do is you can put it into walking. So taking a big step forward, you're going to shift your hip forward first, let that back leg be free to move, bend it, and step forward. You can also do this stepping backwards in reverse, stacking over that back leg and bringing the leg behind you. What I always tell people is it's like walking down the aisle. You want to do it slow and you want to exaggerate it so that when you go to do your normal walking inside or outside, it's patterned in a little better. So slow motion, we're going to push that hip forward, stack over the front leg. Our body is staying back, our chest is nice and open, and we're going to do it with the other side. So nice and slow, practice that walking down the aisle. You can practice it forwards and you can practice it backwards. All right? So those are a few ways to bring in some functional exercises that can help you put that better posture into gait. Remember that if you're having trouble with your posture, it's a great idea to go see a physiotherapist in your area that specializes in Parkinson's or works specifically with Parkinson's, so they can help you get a better posture and help prevent some of the issues that can come up further on down the line if you don't get it addressed early. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you can use some of those tips to get better posture with Parkinson's. Check out our other videos for lots of different exercises that will help you get there, and I will see you soon.